my perspective might be different from others because anyone can be a father, but not everybody can father a child.
A lot of parents and dads today sort of just want to appear perfect to their children. But most of the time, that's not how the children learn. That's not how you lead by example. You sort of tell them, okay, these are the mistakes that I've made, and this is what it cost me. And this is why I'm asking you or I'm advising you in this sort of way. Hey Alpha, welcome to a soul episode. And today I have my dad with me. We might look alike or not. But we're going to be discussing a very important and I think exciting topic today. And it's all about teaching your kids by example, the father's role in building character. And I just thought it's befitting to have my dad here, looking at how I turned out. Pretty great, right? So he's going to talk through his experience, how he grew up, and perhaps how we can teach our children by example and building a strong character within them. So I hope you enjoy and pay attention. All right, Dad, welcome.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
It's your first time, really.
This is exactly my first time.
Okay, so it's just going to be a conversation.
Okay.
And all it is really me just trying to understand your perspective on teaching your children by example and building a strong character within them, looking at how I've turned out. You must be proud.
Yeah, by the grace of God, I'm really proud of having somebody like you as my son.
Awesome. You hear that, people?
Yeah.
Okay, so from your perspective, what does it mean to teach your children by example as a father?
Well, so my perspective might be different from others because anyone can be a father, but not everybody can father a child.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the value you give out to your children depends on the kind of father that you are. I see it as simply impartation. Fatherhood is simply impartation. So what you are, making it to reflect in your children. That's what fatherhood is, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. And you mentioned impartation. So what type of behaviors, or how do you make sure that you impart, I guess, some of your values to your children? Because it's not as easy to do that these days, right?
Yes.
In the sense that sometimes you might be a good example, but your children might decide not to follow you or follow that example. How do you make sure that your children follow that example, and how do you make sure that you are a good example in the first place?
Well, unfortunately, I grew up in a polygamous house.
Okay.
And I think it's just the kind of person that I was when I was young. Very clever. I want to see how things are done. I can tell you clearly how my father behaves, how my mother behaves. And in the midst of other children that we grew up together, I tend to see the other side of life, but I made up my mind that there is no how I can pattern my life after my own father in some aspects of life.
Okay.
So I decided within myself that there is a better side of life of being a father than that which my father told. So I want to do things that I expect my children to do. So that's one of the basic things. Number one thing is my faith. So I made up my mind that my children must know the Lord. So there's no two ways about it. They must know the Lord. So I do everything possible, right from cradle, with the help of my wife and God, it's not negotiable. God is the priority.
I can testify to that. I have many stories, but yeah, I can testify to that.
Okay. So that's one of the things that you have to put in place to make sure that your son or your children are just a replica of you.
Okay, very interesting. You said something before that you saw how your dad was,
Yes.
and you were very observant,
Yes.
and you were able to deduce what you wanted to keep and what you didn't want to keep,
Yes.
as values. As a young child back then, how did you know what you wanted to keep and what you don't want to keep? Because in today's age, a lot of people have the excuse that that's how I grew up. That's what I saw my dad do, and then I'm doing the same thing. But you're saying that you saw possibly the negative things that your dad were doing, and you decided not to do it. How did you find yourself understanding that that is not a good behavior, or that's not a good thing to model after?
Yes. There are so many things that I saw in my dad. My dad do drink, and I I see anytime he is drunk, I always see how he behaves. Which, as a young boy, I felt that something is not right. I couldn't say precisely, but I just felt that something is not right. After drinking, that once in a while we'll be making trouble, shouting, and some of us are just afraid of our father. So I said, no, I don't want to be like this. But there are aspects that I see because I was a young boy, which I was thinking, I like this one. Because when my dad want to eat, they give him a lot of meat. So I said, when I grow up, my wife will be able to give me all this kind of meat. Unfortunately, now my wife struggles with me when it comes to meat. But I love it. That's the gospel truth. But I was able, for some reason, I didn't know how I managed to discover that this one is not good and this one is good. So I decided to change. It was practical changes. I made up my mind and I changed it. That I want to change the narratives. When I was growing up, my grandmother was saying that, your father married 4 wives, so you can't stay on a wife. But I just kept telling them that you don't know me. I'm not going to marry more than 1 wife. So it's a thing of the mind. If anybody is saying that they cannot change, it is simply because they don't want to change.
Right. Okay. I mean, I still think that is fascinating. The fact that you were able to observe. But from my experience, I think it's possibly the fact that you're seeing his influence, or what when he's angry, and what that means to your siblings and maybe to your mother and the people that maybe are you felt closer to. I know for a fact that that's what I do. So I've actually never seen you angry in a family setting before. So you've done a very good job basically to shield us away from that side of, I guess, a family dynamics. So like what you're saying now is that your dad would drink and then he would then get into a state of, where he's very angry. And I suppose that what happens is that people in the house are afraid because he's unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do. And then you're looking at their face, you're looking at how you're feeling, and you're thinking, no one should feel this way. Right. Okay. Yeah, and I think it's the same with me. So what I see, or what I saw growing up with you and mom, was I don't think I never heard you both disagree on one thing. Not until I was at least 20 years old. And at that time I was already grown. I never heard you both argue. I never heard you disagree at all. And obviously I've never seen you drunk or drink, and I don't think I would ever see you do that. So you have basically patterned the way you're going to. So you've imbibed one thing and you've said, okay, this is good, depending on how it makes people feel. This isn't so good. And then you've taken the ones that are not so good, you've thrown them away, and you've taken the ones that are good and said, you know what, this is what I'm going to pass on to my children. How hard is it to teach us the way that you think we should go. You know, the Bible tells us that to raise a child the way he should go. When he grows up, he will not depart from it.
Yeah.
How hard has that been?
Actually, it was not that hard. Like
good
people
children.
think. Yes, it was not that hard because myself and my wife, we always agree together. Now, that time that you said you've never seen us having misunderstanding, we do. We do, but we do series of conversations behind the children. Series of conversations that these children must not know when we have misunderstanding. So that has been that's we started this relationship on the basis of the children that we are going to raise. We have a template that we agreed together for them. So, for example, if there is a kind of issue outside with my wife, and I appear to say, no, leave it. No matter the situations, she will leave it. So the same thing is applicable to me. So, and when the children are around, we tend to behave ourselves so that the children will not know whether we were having misunderstanding or not. We were so united that the children could not come in between us. So it really, really helped us in raising the children. And the fact that the children, right from cradle, we have decided to make them our friends. For example, my children will not go to school without ironing their clothes. Whether you are going to play outside, I must iron it. I do it myself. Until they grow, even when you grow, when you are still living with us, you are running late. I still want to iron your clothes for you.
Yeah.
To say, okay, let me quickly do that for you.
Yeah.
That's friendship with the children. And it helps them to listen to you because you show them that you love them. So it's one of those things that helped us in raising children.
I have so many questions.
I hope I'll be able to answer.
No, it's and like, for example, what I'm learning here and what I hope our listeners and viewers are learning is that children tend to learn more by observing.
Yes.
Not necessarily by a class setting where the father says, this is how I behave, then this is how you should behave.
Yes.
This is what I expect of you. That is not how they learn.
Yes.
You didn't sit us down to say, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do.
Yes.
All we do is maybe do a Bible study, and then we'll see what the Bible says.
Yes.
Aside from that, everything that I've literally learned and I've imbibed today in my family and in training up my two boys were things that I observed.
Yeah.
It wasn't things that you sat down and said, do this, do this, do that. No, I observed it between the relationship of you and mom, and the way you dealt with us. And one thing that I really did take. So everyone listen to this. One thing that I appreciated was that you mentioned that you made us your friend.
Yes.
I think you did a lot more than that. So you had a unique way of understanding us at our level.
Yes.
I'll put it that way. So when we were a baby, you treated us like a baby.
Yes.
When we were toddlers, you treated us like toddlers.
Yes.
When we were children, you treated us like children and or teenagers. And then when we grew up, you treated us like an adult.
Yes.
So the way you communicated with us, the way you treated us changed as the older that we got. And I think that is unique because a lot of people are missing that point. You know, some people still think, oh, they're my babies, they're my children, they have to listen to what I tell them to do, they must do this, they must do that. But I personally feel like you don't have to, like, you save yourself a lot of work if you get that foundation right.
Yes.
Because what I'm doing with my son right now is the age that he is in. So from the time you were born, maybe to around 4 or 5, I do try as much as possible to instill mutual respect and that when daddy says something, you do it.
Yes.
right? Doesn't mean you can't question. You might be questioning me in the sense of you want to understand why
Why?
you want me to do that. I'm more than happy to explain that to you.
Mm.
But ultimately, I make that decision and you follow.
Yes.
So that when it grows older, I don't have to be saying, Isaiah, why are you doing that? And then Isaiah will be looking at me like, what are you talking about? I'm just not going to do it. Like the other day, I know I'm talking a lot now, but the other day I went to pick him up from school and I saw a woman with her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And then the daughter was on one side, the woman crossed. And then she was saying to her daughter, will you come here now? Come here now. And the daughter looked at her and walked away. And that's an example of you missed it at the beginning.
Yes.
Like it's past that point where now the child isn't listening to you.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you figure out that, okay, this is what I'm going to do? I'm going to meet them at their level at every stage of their life. Because at the moment I understand we have a friendship, but at the same time, I know myself. I know you're my dad and I'm the son. And you've been able to do that. That's one thing I learned. So how did you figure out, okay, this is how I'm going to approach parenthood, where a lot of people are missing it?
Yes. Actually, the first thing is God behind me. I'm somebody that is so curious, somebody that is so observant. I have seen a lot of my dad's friends, how they treat their children. And I know that these children, they are not happy over certain things. There are times that we are not happy with the way our father will treat us. But we cannot do it. So now, when I started raising children, after the first important thing is my faith, to impart it into my children and for them to know God by themselves. I can talk about that one time, see that number. Another thing is the kind of unity between myself and my wife, not to disagree in the presence of, I've mentioned that one before. Now, at each stage of the children, there are boundaries that I won't cross, and there are boundaries that I don't want them to cross. So I will give you an example. I know my wife will listen to this at some point. Now, when you grew up to become an adult, I give you due respect. There are occasions that my wife will talk to you like small children, and behind, apology to my wife, behind I will call her. I said, put these children in the position of other children that you see, that you don't know their age, and you respect them. So you need to respect them the way you respect those who are other people's children. I think that's the best way to treat them. The time that they are your children, nobody's going to dispute that. But I think they demand our respect as much as they respect us. Because this is the way I see life. As a father, you started from the bottom. It's like you are going up. So in the middle of it, you got married and you started with one or two children. Now, do you know that the children will not be able to catch up with you in the journey because you have gone ahead of them? But when you get to the top, you will be coming down and you will meet these children on the way. They are the one that will help you. And I think we are getting to that level now, that now sometimes we ask your idea because you are much more current than we were in our own time. So that's why you need to treat them, make them your friends, so that in the future, when you are descending the hill, they will be able to assist you. So I observe every phase of the children as they grow up. We know how to manage them. And when that phase goes, I'm sure you know when you got into university, there are decisions you make by yourselves. But there are decisions, there are counsels that we still give you. But we don't enforce them, but we let you know the advantages and the disadvantages. So it's really helped us to navigate the way with you and all other assembly to where we are today.
Fantastic. Yes, it really did. One question about that is, do you put in your mind to say, okay, between ages this and this is how I'm going to treat them. Between ages this and this is how I'm going to treat them? Or is it more about how individual relationships, so how mature is that child for you to be able to treat them in a certain way? I know that you respect the child all through, but there are ways that you will talk to maybe a 5-year-old, for example, versus how you will talk to a 13-year-old child.
Yes.
So is it by age bracket, to say, okay, between this age and this age, this is how I'm going to sort of manage the child and raise the child? Or do you say, is it dependent on maybe the maturity that you're getting from the child at any point in time?
Not well, both maturity and that age. But as at that time, I just believe that because my mother used to say something that a dried fish, you cannot bend them when it is dried. But when they are soft, it is easier for you to bend them. So it's one of the things that I felt that if you get it right at the beginning, then the rest of the journey will be much more easier for you. So at the beginning, some of you think that we were wicked. We are not wicked. Even in the discipline, you could still see some friendship in it. As young as you were then, is there somebody is doing birthday? We want to go with you there. We take our children there, dress you properly. We go and buy. In those days, if you can't afford to buy new clothes, but we are sure that every Christmas you are going to get new clothes. But somehow we go and get all these grade one okiri, they call it okirekaden. We will travel far because we want our children to look neat, clean in the midst of other children. And my wife will wash them. I will iron them. I just want them to be as clean as possible because they are going to represent me to say, these are Dina's children, this and that. So at each time they are growing up, we were monitoring them until they get to a stage that they start asking us questions. And as you are asking, you remember that sometimes during the Bible studies, all of you will be asking series of questions. And I call my wife behind. I'm just telling you this one. I said, we need to be more cleverer. If not, these children will leave the faith if we can't get answer to all their questions. So we get ourselves prepared that as the questions will be coming, we are giving correct answer. So because you have answers to it, you kept going with us in the faith. So it helped us stage by stage, phase by phase.
Yeah, that's a very good lesson, to have the answers ready.
Yes.
Once, because a lot of people just don't answer wise, and I think it's super important when a child is asking you, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? Why did this happen? Or maybe questions about the Bible. It's very important to use the opportunity to sit down and answer those questions, because if you don't answer the question, somebody else will answer
give them a different answer.
Exactly. And it might not be an answer that you want them to have. So take that opportunity to answer it. Okay. Fantastic. I'm going to ask this one. This is another lesson that I learned from you.
Okay.
So I think when I didn't know this, so as we were growing, you created a bank account for us.
Yes.
And then we didn't know it until we were 16.
Yes.
Or so. Now, as a child, I had no idea how tough life is. I was just like, I want money, I want this, I want that. And we're just expecting it to come. Now, when I look back at it, I sort of can imagine how hard it must have been for you and mom at the time, because you were pretty much new to the country. There's no one here to support you. You had to, and you had 4 children. 4 children. You just got a mortgage, a house at the time. And what was fascinating was that each month you were putting some money away for each of us, and at the same time we were also getting what we call at the time lunch money. So I know I was getting lunch money, and I was spending the lunch money and all of that. And then it wasn't until I turned 16 that you said, okay, you're now old enough. Here is your bank account. And you gave me the card. At that point, I just thought, I'm rich. I said to myself, I'm rich. Regardless of what was in it, I just said to myself that I'm rich. And I'll be honest, I didn't spend it wisely. As you would imagine, a 16-year-old, I didn't spend it wisely. So was that something that you saw where you said, you know what, I want to start saving, regardless of how hard it is for us. I want to put something little in a bank account, and sort of give that to them when they're a bit older. So that's one part to the question.
Okay.
The second part to the question is there any, because I think one thing that I perhaps didn't pay attention to is how to manage money at that time. And maybe I was just still too young. I was a bit older by the time I realized, okay, this is money, and you need to sort of manage it better than maybe I did in the past. Is there a part of you that said, okay, maybe we should have sat them down and really teach them about money at the time?
No, it didn't occur to us at that time, but we just felt that these children are growing and they need to know what an adult does. Keeping money for you is just for you to learn that you don't spend everything. Unfortunately, when you got it, you spent everything. So that's the unfortunate thing. But having said that, at least today you are remembering it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you made the mistake in the past, you have learned how to, probably you will now sit down your son to say, this money, you have to keep it. It is not meant for you to spend. Continue to trade with it so that this money will become more. So, but it never occurred to us then to sit you down, but we just felt that you are old enough to be able to know what to do with this money, even though you didn't tell us that we will be spending it anyhow. but what was at the back of our mind is an investment into the life of these children. It's not just saying go to school, go to school. Let them know what money is like, how to keep money, how to behave like a mature young boy. So that was our intention then, to make sure that all of you, when others are talking about their bank account, you'll be able to say that your parents too, they open an account for you.
Yeah.
So that was solidly what was behind us. But we never thought that, okay, let's advise them, don't spend this money anyhow. No, we were not looking into that area.
Yeah, and I think like what you said, or what our prayer is that for our children to be better than us.
Yes.
In every aspect essentially, but also to learn as much good or great values as they can from us. Because what I would say is that I took that learning and I think I took it to the next level. In the sense that now I have my two boys, and the first thing that I did as soon as they were born was to start saving for them. So I learned that, but rather than putting it in a bank, I put it into an investment account for them so that they can start to grow. And now I'm thinking, okay, knowing who I was and the mistake that I made, which was spending it all, when's the right time to give them? When is the right time to give them? So I'm trying to figure that out right now. Maybe I might never have to give it to them until maybe they're 18, I don't know. But I'm trying to figure out, okay, at what point do I give it to them? Do you have any advice?
Yes, the advice that I would give in that aspect is this. Children, they are different. We have different kind of children. The way your first son will handle things might be different from the way your second son will handle it. But I will advise that you study them, see how mature they are. You can tell them that I have an account for you, but I just want you to be matured enough to be able to handle it. This was the mistake I made in my own time. So I wouldn't want you to make the same mistake. There's nothing wrong telling them that you made a mistake. There's no perfect human being. Just this was the mistake I made when our dad and our mom was keeping money for us. But I want you I don't know at what point I would listen to you, but if you can tell me exactly what you want to do, what is your plan for your future, we can run it together. So you can decide to say, okay, this is how we are going to do it. It's still your money. You can guide them and help them in investing the money. So instead of just giving it to them, and they do
Yeah.
what you did.
Don't do that at home, okay? Has there been a time where we questioned some of the values that you were trying to instill, and how did you deal with it? Or has there been a time maybe where we were a bit difficult? How did you manage that? Because in today's world, and for as I can remember, children are not always so easy.
Yes.
So you do get more difficult children who sort of just feel the need to challenge you.
Yeah.
How do you sort of manage that without, disrespecting your child?
That's a very good question, especially when you were growing up. We have at the back of our mind that when the children are becoming like a teenagers, they tend to change their behaviors. But the only thing that really helped us at that age, because at a stage, children will want to break loose from the grip of the parents. But what really helped us was the boundary that was set. And another thing that can say really helped us was that because you were 4, we made sure that we treat you equally, and then you are united even up to tomorrow. So, and most of the time when we hold meetings, the first thing I stress is just unity, because it will help you. Now, it's much more easier that when one is going wrong, it is easy to say, talk to your brother, talk to your sister. So when it is coming from other angles like that, sometimes it may not be what you like, but you just feel that since it's not only coming from the father alone, the other ones too are telling you that this is not right, this is not right. It helped until you pass through that stage.
Yeah.
So it's really helped. There's every child at that stage will misbehave, but you have to be conscious of it, that this is that stage.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that the boundary that is still there is there.
Yeah.
That I am your father. Sit down. Can we talk about these things? I was like this before. This was a mistake I made. This is what I should have done. So I don't want you to fall a pig. This is not supposed to be your friend. This is, I always tell you then, this is not supposed to be your friend. This is supposed to be your friend. This and that, on and on, until you pass through that stage. So we really need to put eyes on them at that stage, because if care is not taken, you can lose them into the world at that stage.
Yeah. I think what struck me when you were saying all of that was building some form of unity within the children themselves.
Exactly.
As well. Because I can testify that, that's how sort of me and my siblings are. I have a sister and 2 brothers. So what you did, just to help the listeners and the viewers to understand, what you did that really helped was you allowed us, you built a system of respect between even us, the siblings.
Yes.
So there's an hierarchy within the siblings. So your elder son, which is my older brother, is the higher power. And then after him is my older sister.
Yeah.
And then after her is me. And then after me is my brother.
Yes.
So what you've done is not necessarily to introduce this sort of dictatorship from the top down. It's more like, okay, he is older than you or she is older than you. Respect them for that reason.
Yes.
And then you were able to blend that respect, love, and unity. Because I love my siblings. There were times where we fought. There were times where it was pretty. There were times where it was pretty ugly. But it still comes to because I think that's what people miss today.
Yes.
The fact that sometimes it feels like the love is not there. But what really holds you is that respect.
Yes.
So there were times where me and my older brother, we would fight. I think I fought more with him and my younger brother, but more with him than I did with my older sister.
Yes.
I think me and my older sister, we used to get in trouble together. If you're watching this, we got in trouble together. So we did a lot of things together. We were the middle children. But me and my older brother, we fought a lot. Now, within that fight, it might seem as though there is no love there. But one thing that kept us grounded is the fact that I know that he's older than me.
Yes.
And there was that respect there. So coming back to what you said before, you said something about even if you are not able to get through to the child, what you would tend to do is speak to a sibling.
Yes.
And then allow the sibling to come and to speak to that particular child.
Yes.
And I think that is absolutely key. I think that worked so well with us. There are times maybe, sometimes I might be feeling it's because you're my dad. And there's a way I see you just for the fact that you're my dad. But when my sister comes to talk to me, she knows how to talk to me. Usually your siblings have a closer relationship to you than your parents. So they know how to talk to you. So it is very important for you to sort of build that culture of unity within your siblings and love, so that one can talk to the other. One thing that I think it's important for us to discuss, maybe we'll do a part 2 to this, because I think there's still so much to unpack here. But one thing that maybe I wanted us to cover is, you mentioned something before that you were not afraid to tell your children the mistakes that you have made.
Yes.
A lot of parents and dads today sort of just want to appear perfect to their children. But most of the time, that's not how the children learn. That's not how you lead by example. You sort of tell them, okay, these are the mistakes that I've made, and this is what it cost me. And this is why I'm asking you, or I'm advising you in this sort of way. Do you think that is accurate?
Yes, that's, as far as I'm concerned, there is no perfect human being. We all make mistake at one point or the other. But the ability to realize that was a mistake, and that's why we're elderly. There's nothing you can do without experience. You can't shy away from experience. For example, I have a lot of experience than you do. So because I've gone through the stage in which you are now, you might say I'm an old school, but the experience, the mistake I made in the journey, I should be able to tell you so that you won't make the same mistake. So which is very, very important in life. So if I cover my mistake, then there's tendency that you will fall into the same mistake, which is not good. But looking at the children are our future. When our children fall into the pit and we allow them to fall into the pit, then we are not doing well. We are not being a good father. A good father must be able to navigate their children well, give them directions and directives. So that's very helpful, and that's what we are still doing up to tomorrow. You remember, even at this your old age, I'm not saying you are too old, we still tell you that there are certain things you want to do with our relatives that you let us know, because we know them more than yourself. So we know them more than yourself. If anybody is requesting for one thing or the other, you want to do something with them, let us know. We'll be able to guide you. So until we are too old that I hope we won't lose our senses.
Amen.
We still want to keep guiding you because of the experience that we have.
Okay. It's been an eye-opener for me. There are a lot of things that I personally also learned from your story. There are a lot of lessons that I think a lot of people can learn. But if you had to summarize it and give us 3 things that a father needs to do in order to teach by example to build strong characters in their children, what are the 3 main things that you would advise them to do?
The first thing is faith in God. Not only teaching them, but letting them discover God for themselves. That's very important because it makes the life so easy. Another thing is what you have said, which I have said, that I was talking to a family. I said, let these children respect each other because it will help you in the future. They said, no, this is England. They don't have to respect each other. No, I know that in the future it will speak. What we do today will speak. That you must create a relationship that somebody must be able to listen to somebody even when we are not there. Somebody must be able to listen to somebody, and this is what has been helping us. This is my senior brother. Everybody knows. Then you have to listen to your senior brother or your senior sisters. If you can't listen to your father, you say this is an old school, you have to listen to them. So apart from the faith, you must build unity. Connectivity is important in the family. I'm connected to my wife at the initial stage, and we agree together, this is what we are going to do. She won't say, no, let's not do it that way. We agree together. We discussed it, even behind you. So it helps us, and the connectivity was brought down to the children, and they were all connected together and connected to us, and we are all connected to God.
Yeah.
So we can't rule it out. So that's the second thing. The third thing that I think is helping us is that we just want to make impact in raising a family, not only children. Make impact in raising a family. We can do it. Anybody can do it. We have a template, myself and my wife, which I am sure is passed over to you. There are certain things that we did not tell you, but we find out that you are doing them because you saw us doing them.
Yeah.
I will mention that today. There are a few things that we noticed, and that tells us that teaching is just through impartation. It's not only by the word of our mouth. What you do, your children now, it will get to a stage that they want to walk the same way you are walking.
Yep.
They want to they watch how you are signing your signature. They want to take after you.
Yep.
So if what you are doing is bad, they take after it as well. So those are the important things that I think we need to put in place so that we can have a better future.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you so much, Daddy,
Well,
for
God.
coming. Thank you for watching and listening. Remember, wherever you are, you can subscribe. So subscribe, like, and follow for more content. It's been a privilege having you, sir. Thank you so much.
God bless you. God bless you.